3, 2, 1, boom. We're live. Hey, this is Ted Hicks from Late Night Parents. Ways to follow the show, latenightparents.com. You can find our latest podcasts and blogs, and various feeds are up there. On the phone with longtime friend Shawn Armour. You can find him on Twitter, True Armor, the Armor Intergalactic podcast is also available through however you consume your podcast. Shawn, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Man, I got to tell you, we have a mutual friend who just passed.
Yeah.
Sad stories, and, you know, we always chop it up. I got to make sure we chop it up more often. I knew you weren't feeling too good. That's why I was hounding you, texting you. Like, I was just like, I don't know, like in the back of my mind, knowing that I'm like, all right, I knew you were sick. I knew our mutual friend was sick.
Right.
But I knew you were only sick with a cold.
Right. But you can still hear a little bit of, excuse me. Right.
Yeah, just slightly. You sound a lot better than when I spoke to you last week.
Oh, yeah. Like, it's been with me for about, I want to say a month, which is longer than I expected it to be. And it's been a right pain in the butt. So, you know, you take it like that, it's just a pain in the butt. And then a few days later, it's a little worse. And then it's a little worse. And then before you know it, you're like, I should have taken this thing a little more seriously. And now you're wondering if it's pneumonia, if it's this, if it's bronchitis. Should I have gotten a flu shot? You know, you begin second-guessing yourself, especially in this environment where, you know, we've lost a friend that we've both known for like 40 years.
I know.
So,
that's
you know, that plays in the back of your head. So, yeah.
It really does. It really does.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, I think I told you before, I was sick with a similar cold, like an upper respiratory infection type cold,
right.
March, April. And it lingered for about a month for me. And I went to urgent care. And I paid the money for urgent care. I sat there, and the doctor who was there or on duty was just like, I'm going to prescribe to you some Mucinex. I said, Mucinex? I said, I can get that from the store. You're not going to give me, like, the good stuff? Like, I take it for 3 days, and I'm doing jumping jacks?
Exactly. The stuff you get celebrities.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And
exactly.
the stuff you give celebrities, and then you say they come back to you the next day talking about, I'm done. I'm done.
Exactly.
I don't have any left. Can I have some more?
And I wrote 3 fire albums over the last 12 hours.
Right. Yeah. That's the crazy thing about it, man. Oh, life is something. We were talking before, and I was telling you, I slept in late today. I never sleep in late.
Right.
The sun is always has me up early, ripping and running, going here from jiu-jitsu to swimming to football to this to that. I'm like, But today, you know what? I slept at 12 noon, and it felt good.
See, exactly. There's perks to getting out of your routine. You know, people who, like my ex used to do this. She was perpetually on go. And I was like, geez, calm down, relax I can't relax, I have to run at it. And in my mind you, she was like a AAA rated go-getter, and I'm more of a lackadaisical kind of seeker. So we were these different types of people. But at the same time, you know, I would tell her, the Simpsons lady, the cat lady, who, if you know The Simpsons, her biography was she was a PhD in this, she went to Harvard and Yale and Johns Hopkins, and then one day she snaps and now she's a crazy cat lady, which sounds ridiculous, but it's not out of the norm. People, especially people who operate at that level, snap because of all the stress and stuff and never actually get back to normal, and then their whole life becomes trying to get back to normal, you know, after you've operated at such a level. And I would say, instead of having a blowout like a tire on your intellectual road, why don't you just, every now and then, like when I was a runner, you pace back a little bit. Whew. You know, you set your mark at the person in front of you, you don't want to get too far behind them, and you want to try and catch them and pass them and then set your pace on the guy in front of that guy. But eventually, you've passed 5 guys. You're not going to pass the other 20, and you have to kind of settle in here or explode your heart trying to chase the first guy. You know what I mean? And it becomes this thing. It's like, we know that you work hard. We know that you're at it. We know you have a life plan. But sometimes you should sleep in late. You know what I mean? And you shouldn't give yourself a hard time about it. You need to sleep in late, which kind of dovetails on what we were talking about getting ill as you get older. You know, you have to kind of take it a little more seriously because you're not 21. And people rely on you, you know. So sleep in late. That one day, don't let them rely on you that one day because they relied on you for the last 7,000 days straight. You know what I mean? So sleep late, watch the ball game, you know, that kind of thing.
I will tell you, I know nothing about that. What you're talking about being a runner. I like to drink beer. I like to sit back and kick my feet up. And,
right.
I give it big shout out to the runners out there. Big shout out to the folks that are really doing it. I just feel like no doubt, big shout out. I'm just saying that you need to pace that with something. You just can't perpetually be running at it. You know, every now and then you need to get off the treadmill. And the people that I know who are, you know, they're like the person I'm talking about got into like 2 Ivy League schools and she was not playing around. So to tell her now to calm down and smell the roses you got there, it's been, you know, 10, 15 years since you got out of jail and Johns Hopkins, you know, and you've been perpetually running at it. Take a breath. A vacation is not a breath. If the way people plan vacations is not like, it doesn't seem to be relaxing. And it always seems to be to go and chalk stuff off a list. I'm going to Bali or Crete. Or I want to see the Parthenon and the, you know, and it goes on. And versus just going someplace and sitting down. And if you really want to go someplace and sit down, you can do that locally. You know, we all have beaches and national parks, even small ones where you can hike in. And that's what I mean, where you just kind of go, I'm not going to talk about work today. You know, I'm not going to be stressed out. Well, you should always be stressed out about your kids because that's the magic of kids. But work is not one of those things where you should give your whole life to, unless you own the business. You know what I mean? Because then you'll give your whole life to it, like the woman who made Tupperware, like Stan Lee, who made Marvel, and they didn't own the companies. They're synonymous with these companies, made billions for the owners of these companies, and at the end of the day, they weren't the owners, and their kids didn't prosper. But if they had, you know, that's all I'm saying. Look, I'm not telling anybody not to work hard, not to go at it, not to get it. All I'm saying is every now and then, look around and take a breath. Look around and take a breath, because you may have worked your whole life for something that you stopped wanting 20 years ago, 30 years ago. You know what I mean? And that's all I'm saying. Sounding like a new age hippie over here. But yeah, so you
go get it. Nobody said you not to go get it. It's a cutthroat world. Get it. But at the end of the day, you are a bad captain if you run your ship aground. If you do not take measures of patching holes and taking just a little care in what your own headspace says is all I'm saying. Because people will run. Ooh, this girl likes that I do this. Ooh, you just can't walk away, especially married dudes. Can you imagine? I decided to give it all up and become like a hermit while moving the whole family to, like, you know, not even Tibet or Fiji, something like Tuscaloosa, like Alabama or some craziness. Your whole family, not just in your house, would like lose their head. Ted is going crazy. He's talking about growing radishes in Mississippi. What is he, you know? And it's this, but you never know how people get there. For, you know, that's the first stage in, like, the great novel or the great this or the great that. But it's also be the first stage because, you know, you snapped 5 months ago when nobody recognized it, and now you're growing radishes in Alabama. Like, how you got there matters. Why you're growing radishes matters. So, yeah, just don't snap. Trust me, I've had more than a few lawyer friends who gave up law because they burnt out. But it was the thing you wanted to do all your life. So who knows? And again, like you said, I'm not one of these guys who run at it. I'm just kind of one of these guys who paces at it. So
no. Pacing at it is good. Pacing at it.
Yeah,
is good.
I think most of us do that.
Yeah. I mean, I tend not to take work too seriously. I mean, I know what the job is.
Which is why you have a good attitude and you're not flipping out and losing your mind. Right. Your boss does like some crazy thing or, oh my God, like your work life is not your world. I mean, it supports your world, but it's not your world. And the sad thing is a lot of young people who don't have any real connections, you know, husband, wife, kids, family, where you could bounce stuff off and see other people doing this and go, oh, I don't want to be that. Or see somebody doing it right and go, man, I got to up my game to be like that. But nobody generally wants to, what did we used to call it when we were kids? When it was frowned upon that you admired somebody in the community, you were on their jock, we used to say, right? So if someone got it all together, I always tell, like, dudes younger than me, why would you not study how they got it all together? I'm not talking about an in-depth study of years and years, but go, oh, I know so-and-so, you know, he's whatever grind he's on, it looks to be working for him. And he works X amount of time. He does, you know, freelance so he could write if he's an artist, or he's all in with this job and he expects to be, you know, line cook in 6 months. And then from there, you know, head, you know, waiter. Then from there, him and his friends are talking about taking whatever and opening up a small restaurant, right? That's a plan. I'm doing 12-hour days because I see something down the road versus just doing 12-hour days at, you know, let's say Walmart and not having a plan for what happens after your 12-hour days. So instead you drink or get high or, you know, you just bum it up. And in 5 years, which is going to come here, you know, eventually, whether you want it to or not, and the only way it's not coming for you is if you're not here, what are you going to do in 5 years? Where are you going to be in 5 years? And this is what we don't tell people. We just tell them to just perpetually stay in the mines and work for Disney in the mines, and maybe, you know, Disney will put you up in some tower in some corner office.
You know what? I tell my kids all the time, you know, you know, well, not for my son yet, but I'll pass the book down. I got my daughter the Don't Sweat the Small Stuff book.
Right.
And because, you know, stressing out about school, about this, where's she going to go to college, or she's going to go to the military. She's like, I'm leaning toward the military, but I want to also look at schools, and I got to make sure SATs, and I'm so stressed about it. I'm like, stop.
Yeah.
Because I said the key thing that I pulled out of that book was, will it matter in a year? What little situation you're dealing with. Now, it might not seem like a little situation to the person at the time, but if they can step out of those shoes and kind of have a global look at it, that this is an issue just for a moment. This is not going to affect you 10, 15, 20 years from now.
Right.
And
I agree with that.
And I look at, you know, I know we're sitting here sounding like some democratic socialists on the podcast, and it's not meant to be that way. But you know, you have, you know, first world problems. I mean, it's really serious what's going on out in California with the fires.
Yeah.
You know, you got a lot of lost lives.
That is crazy.
You got a lot of lost lives.
1,000 people.
They're just missing.
People.
They're missing. They've vanished.
Yeah. I mean, oh my God! When I heard that number, I was like, oh, you know, because as someone who has law enforcement experience and kind of followed it still, when I heard 60 people and saw how big that fire was, I was like, this is way more than 60 people. And I think I got off lucky in my own headspace because I was thinking, this is going to be like 5,000 people. I mean, I'm thinking it's a community, and I'm basing it on our community we grew up in, which was densely packed. And I revised it in my own head because I realized they're not densely packed. They're like 3 or 4, 8 people in a giant house as big as a warehouse. And then, like, there's 100 feet, 200 feet, 1,000, not maybe 1,000, between them before the next millionaire home with all this stuff. So you're not getting a lot of people, even though you're getting a lot of land. The same thing happens in New York. One tenement building has 2,000 people in it. You know what I'm saying? Not tenement building. One project building has like 800, 1,000 people in it. So you're not getting that kind of congestion, but at the same time, they're not all millionaires. Singers, and, some of them are just affluent, well-to-do people who live in the hills who are now gone, and it's just...
Fires have damaged up to 250 miles.
Jesus.
So the distance between New York to Maryland or to D.C.
Yeah, I'm about to say. I'm about to say Maryland. Yeah.
Is just
and
gone.
It's still burning. Yeah,
and
it's still burning. And it's burning toward the sea. And they're talking about like Bel Air and like it's crazy. It's a thing that when I was a kid you'd see in the movies like the Towering Inferno, these wild that's a fire that you just thought would never happen, and then you see it on TV and several giant high rises from like the 9/11 terrorist attack to this fire in England, which burned up this house, this high rise, and you're just like, wow, you figure that they would have a system to deal with fires, whether it's high rise fires or it's these giant landscape fires. And at the end of the day, they don't, because we are essentially tiny little ants running around with thimbles full of water trying to put out a football stadium fire. It just it's crazy. So some of this is going to have to burn, and people aren't going to be, I guess, allowed back in there, or they're going to. Here's the other thing. If you follow nature like I follow all these stupid nature programs, water hasn't hit California, which is why the fires are the problem. But I don't know if the fires are going to settle. But once the rains come, you're going to have mud flows because nothing is tied to the soil anymore. Trees are uprooted and gone, so it just becomes mud rolling downhill. And those can be ginormous. In Mexico, I think they call them lahars. And, yeah, they wipe out people in low-lying land and cover it with, 30 feet of mud. It happened in Seattle a number of years ago, not from forest fires, but from just, heavy rain and then a mudslide. And, 3 people survived in a town. And they showed the town before and after picture. And it sort of looked like this cleft between a cliff, and when the mud came through, it was 1 in the afternoon. Some people were at work, some people were home. People couldn't find family, friends, or houses. You couldn't find your house. You know what I mean? It's one thing to be burnt out and walk down. This is my street. This is my fire hydrant. My house used to be here. There's only a chimney left. But with these mudslides from the mountains, with not even loose ground, just burnt out soil on top of soil with nothing to hold it, no vegetation or foliage. When the water catches it, it just does what water does. It carries everything downhill. And, you get a 30-foot mudslide that'll wipe out, a whole neighborhood. So these are the things that I think about. And then I see, these public officials talking smoke, and I'm like, but what about this? This is the next thing. What about? And they never mention the next thing, because I think in my head, 1, they don't know what they're doing, and 2, they can't sit there and go, I don't know what I'm doing, but you should be worried about this, because that throws more light on the fact that I don't know what I'm doing, and now it gives you something else to worry about as you're living in a shelter. You know what I mean? It's the whole environment has gotten. Everybody's phoning it in, and people don't need more phone-ins. It's the environment is crazy. What's going on here? Just not just the political landscape. All aspects of this country seem to me to be a little buggy. So yeah, fires, mudslides, floods in the South and the Middle East, winds, rain.
I'm going to say something stupid here. And
I doubt that, but go ahead.
You got to pardon me on this, but you have all this water.
Yeah.
That's available in Cali. You're going to tell me...
Wait, what water available are you talking about?
Well, no, I'm just talking about the oceans.
Well, here's the problem with that. If you start dumping straight ocean water on land, you're going to poison the land with seawater, right? You're going to salt the earth, and so you can't do that. So now what you have to do is you have to take all this water and desalinize it, right? Which is going to take forever because it's a crap ton of water. You know what it is? Think of it like this: before you put the fire out in your house, you have to Brita water it, right? So you got a giant Brita water thing next to a fire hydrant. So instead of just pulling it from the fire hydrant, you have to wash it through this system of coal and sand and all this stuff to get the salt out, and then put fresh water on this fire so you don't so you can grow stuff in the coming seasons. And this is what you have. Remember, there was a great movie called Chinatown about California because California has always had a water issue going back to its founding. So, yeah, well, I want all your listeners to watch Chinatown. Even if you don't watch it, one, it's a good movie. But even if you don't watch it, look it up on YouTube and see what the plot is. And the plot is essentially a super rich dude tries to corner the market on water in California in a place that's always sunny and always warm and is lacking in water. California is slightly better, I don't want to piss off the Arizona viewers, but slightly better than Arizona in the fact that there's an ocean next to it, right? But Arizona has the same issue. Arizona has not a water crisis, but Arizona doesn't have a water crisis because everybody isn't running to Arizona like everybody's running to L.A. So the more people get to L.A., the more water you need, the more space you need. Now you've got $10,000 apartments, and it's all this kind of nonsense. But I think they broke their system because there's no water and there's fire. Who wants to live there? So I fully expect all those rich people to slide into New York like they love to do, or maybe a few will go home and buy giant tracts of land in Kentucky and Montana and all this and tell you how, they got tired of Hollywood like you always hear, and they live outside of Hollywood. But I don't think very many people are going to want to stay there because, like every neighborhood, it's broken now. The people you live next door to you who was cool, you knew for 10, 15 years, you loved their kids, and the guy up the street and across the road and 2 blocks over, all those people are gone. The whole place is burnt out. So the vibe of the place has changed, right? So now, excuse me.
Wait. I got to stop you. You talking about the local neighborhood, or are you still talking about out west?
I'm talking about, excuse me. I'm talking about the vibe of, like, these Hollywood people in the Hollywood Hills, right?
Okay.
So let's say my neighborhood is Kanye. Oh, man, I love Kanye and his wife. I don't care what they say. They're great. And then down the street, it's Brad Pitt and his 19 kids. And then up the road, it's, Diddy and his bunch of knuckleheads. But we all get together. We play pool or poker because they were neighbors. You know how neighbors are. We were neighbors. You like your neighbors. Can't wait to see my boy. What's going on? Tell me the latest. Now that all these fires are gone and so many people are burnt out, even if you survived, you're there alone. Or if you're not there alone, you're there with that neighbor that you sort of didn't get along with, or he was kind of a bum. Or you're there with your good friend who also survived it. Now there's just the two of you and no one else you know. And now you reminisce about the old days and how nice, you know what I mean? So no matter how you look at it, the environment is ridiculously different, and people don't like change. Change is inevitable in life, and people don't like change because once you get your system down, you don't want it mucked up by change, right? Oh, I've got this wife, I've got this kid, I've got this house, my life is perfect. What's new? Boom, a dog. Why am I going to put a dog in this house? What's new? Boom, an adopted kid. What's new? Oh, my God, someone's sick. All these random changes throw unwanted energy in your quote-unquote perfect system, right? Nobody has a real perfect system, but everybody has their system.
No one has the perfect life.
Right, exactly.
People could front like they have the perfect life. No one. I mean, you could be Bill Gates.
Rich people kill themselves all the time.
Right. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. So, excuse me. So it's this idea of, community and neighborhood and all these things that I can see people just going, well, I had cool neighbors and I had sunshine and blah, 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 and now the whole place is on fire and it smells like smoke. Why am I even here? I have $100 million. Why don't I just buy a giant place? Boom. And what's the next sunny place that isn't crazy? I was going to say Florida. But, people can go to, look, if everyone in Washington, and everybody in California, any of these super rich people who didn't mind the snow, all went to Detroit, which needs people, right? They could revolutionize Detroit in like 5 years. And then the next thing you hear out of Detroit is stories like you always hear of gentrification and unfairness, right? But wherever they go, and mind you, California, it's not like you just plant more trees and get it moving. You still need water. There are still fires. And every day there's less land to stand on that isn't scorched. So I don't know what's going on here. I don't see, like, there's always, what's the story about Wall Street where if there's blood on the street, buy, that whole thing. So I fully expect people to be trying to get out of there and people just to be buying up the scorched land because the environment is ridiculous. And at all times, the American environment is ridiculous. So, fires and floods and the nature of people.
This could very well go into an emergency preparedness discussion, but we won't go down that route for this discussion. This is Late Night Parents. Ways to follow the show, latenightparents.com. Want to give a big shout-out to KMSW 101.5 FM in San Antonio, Texas, the Martinez Street Women's Center. Big shout-out for you guys because you downloaded the show. You played the show. A lot of these low-power community radio stations, it's kind of nice to do a podcast. I'm going to tell you, Shawn, that you could do something that you could say, hey, it's exclusive. It's something I do. It's something you jump on and do. And we have, various people and inventors and all this stuff jump on it. But when you think about it, why are you really doing a podcast? You want to extend your reach. You want it to be like, remember when Jerry Seinfeld would drop a comedians in cars drinking coffee episode on Facebook, and then next thing you know, it's like 1 million likes, and you're just like, oh my God. You're like, how did that happen?
Right.
I don't know. Hey, I want to just share this quick story with you. I had an interview with Dr. Shawn Kang. I got to tell you, this gentleman created a smart belt. And his smart belt. A smart belt. Everyone's into wearables, right? Right. Everyone wants to track. Hey, I want to track my steps. I want to know my heart rate. I want to know,
Right. How many calories I'm burning that I'm sitting here typing.
MRI. I'm sitting here typing, and I'm shoving this donut down my throat. And it's coffee with 7 sugars. And I want to know, how quickly am I, everyone wants to extend their life, but doing that is just the opposite. The big thing about the belt is it has the longest lasting battery. It was an easy to download app. It's called the Welt Corp, WELT, easy to download app. You can plug in the belt, Welt, WELT. Battery lasts 45 days. I was talking with him. Yes.
Wait, I'm sorry. Did you say 45 days?
45 days. 45 days.
They might have buried the lead on this thing.
Oh, they totally.
If you have a battery that lasts 45 days, you are revolutionizing batteries and not belts. That is outrageous. That's incredible.
The cool thing about the belt. The cool thing about the belt, it tells you when you're overeating. It tells you when you're overeating. So I'm sitting there.
Is your voice? Step away from the table, you fat bastard.
You're sitting there.
That'd be cool.
And you're at lunch, and you're having a liquid lunch, so you're having burgers and beers.
Right.
And you're sitting there, and it's like, bah, bah, bah. You're just like, uh-oh. But
like a giant siren backing up and goes off at the table.
I was trying to have an interview with the inventor because, this type of stuff I do. I speak with these people.
Right.
I got to tell you, he was in Paris last week with Macron and Trump and all the other world leaders. This guy,
nice.
Dr. King. I was saying, okay, it's only a 6-hour difference. Let me see. I'm working with the PR group. I did the interview last night. If you believe me, I'm not sure if you're going to believe me or not, but I'm going to release the interview. I did it with him while he was in Korea. He was 14 hours ahead of me.
Whew.
So here it was. It was a Friday evening, 7:30, and it was 9:30 Saturday morning in Korea.
Welcome to the new world.
Yeah, it's like the power of Skype, the power of technology, the fact that you can be on the phone together, going through a product, and we had, for the most part, we had a good 20-minute conversation.
Right.
Some language differences.
Right.
But for the most part, the guy he's brilliant. He's a genius. He worked at Samsung. He, I guess, harnessed most of the tech from, I guess, his time at Samsung and then stepped out on his own.
Oh. Wow. Right.
So that was my evening. The weather's been crazy, but I got to tell you, you were just talking about Detroit and talking about a place that's been decimated, a place that would need that.
Speaking of not having water,
that economic boost. Tell me this much: you're a very, very smart man, and I've known you for 40 years. Why didn't Amazon go to Detroit? Why did it decide Long Island City and Virginia?
Everybody loves the winner, right? And New York is winning. And New York has been winning since, I want to say 1920, well, maybe some say 1880. I'll say about 1900. But it's the idea of the capital city, right? It's the idea of the lingua franca. So a quick little history, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. So about 100 years ago, the language and the place of note was London, right? Everybody talked about London, and there was Charles Dickens, and they wrote, But before that, I want to say it was Paris. But Paris didn't have, while it was a city of note and everybody respected it, it didn't have the language, right? English has been the language since, I want to say, I don't know how I'm right about it, but English has been the language of business and doing stuff, I want to say, for about 100 years. But before that, people would because of the British. So as time churns, people will move their kind of like energy to like the Fire City. So now it's been America and New York for forever. But before New York, it was Paris, and before Paris, it was England, and before England, I think there might have been talk of Italy. So all these things, people kind of will sort of gravitate to do business there, and then to do business there, everyone has to be on the same page. So to get on the same page, you generally have to speak the same language. So with America slipping, I was thinking about this. With America slipping, I was wondering who the next. I think the language is always going to be, well, not always, but largely it's going to be English for easily probably the next 100 years, because I don't think anybody's going to be picking up Spanish. Some people talk German. The business of language is German, but I don't think that's the truth, because you don't know German and I don't know German. And I know a lot of business people who don't know German. They may go there and do business there. But once people start learning that language is your first sign that you're losing power, right? So England's loss of power wasn't with them going, everybody's speaking Spanish or French or whatever. Their whole thing was, everybody's speaking the same language, but all the energy is moving from London, from the Queen, to America, right? And I forgot what got me on this track. But I forgot what got me on this track. But wow, I really walked myself into the mire. I don't even know how I got here.
We initially we were talking about Detroit, and we were talking about Amazon, and we were talking about New York and D.C. being, the financial capital,
and why Amazon went there.
Right, and
politics. So my point was essentially that Amazon could have changed the lives of hardworking people who want a gig, right? The fact that they went to where everybody always goes to, New York, and I want to say they tried to mask some of it by going to Virginia, Northern Virginia, which is really, they just want to be by D.C., right, where the power brokers are. So you go to New York and D.C., which is, after you tell all these people you're going to have this fair assessment, you give them all this clumped up security information. And it wasn't even secure information, right? It was everything the government does should be public information. You should remember that the next time there's a police shooting and they go, we're not going to release the name of this cop. Every cop is a public servant. But that's a side note. So what you want, in my opinion, if I'm a city runner, whether that's a governor or a mayor, if I run a city or cities at that level, what I want them to do is to come through with jobs where you can fund yourself, which sounds ridiculous, but it used to be what happened. You used to get a job and be able to fund yourself. Now you need 6 jobs to do that. And the idea that you get a job at one of the biggest companies in the world, one of the biggest retailers, I want to say, and they have to give you all this free stuff for you to come there, means you don't want them there. You know what I mean? I mean, if you can come in and pay taxes like everybody else, you do a boon to the place that you're at. But if you come through with, I want free land, I don't want to pay taxes for 15 years, I want abatements, you know what, who needs you? Jeff Bezos is the richest guy in the world. And at this point, he's insisting that people go without so he can stand in the sunlight. And I'm an old school thinker. At that point, I think you're a problem for me and mine. You know what I mean? I don't want to worship you. You have a pretty nice life. You make $180,000 a minute. Mm-hmm. Why do you need this stuff? Why am I working 3 jobs to stay in the city I was born in so you could swoop in with your weird newspaper and say what a lot of people believe isn't exactly the truth? So, people have a problem with these barons. And just like the robber barons of the 1920s with their oil companies and their monopolies and their railroad stations and charging you whatever they wanted, with politicians in their pocket, I don't see any real difference with Bezos and who's the boy genius? Zuckerberg. Yeah, and I even see problems with who's the Shark Tank guy, the basketball owner. Oh, what's his name? Not Bezos, but Cuban, Mark Cuban. With people talking about, you can be a billionaire president if you want it. It's like, none of these people seem to be good stewards of what I think the average man wants. And I'm no expert on the average man, but I would argue that I know more average men than any of these people do, right? And I've always had a philosophy. Once you're out of a place for more years than you lived in it, then you're no longer representative of that place. So when I hear Jay-Z talk about Brooklyn, the first thing I go is, whatever, because he ain't been there in a minute. You know what I'm saying? So it's that. So when I see Jeff Bezos come through with every working man and union stuff, and he's talking all this smoke from his high tower as the richest guy in the world, and God bless him for attaining that. It's quite a title to have. But I also know rich guys get armies of people, just these pedantic, sycophantic ridiculoids who are like, oh, no, you can do what, just perpetually grinning in their face and telling them that, well, it's obviously somebody else's fault. They have no respect for things that you and I have no respect for, but for different reasons, right? I have no respect for congressmen and senators because they don't do the job, whereas he's got no respect for congressmen and senators, I'm assuming, because he can buy them outright. And why would you have any respect for people you can buy outright? Yeah, I'll give you $100,000 for your campaign, but first I really need this place in Virginia and New York. And not only do I need that, I need all this specialized information that won't be available to everybody for at least 2 years. And I need it now. And people go, oh, yeah, Mr. Bezos. And they just kind of hand it over. Yeah, Mr. Zuckerberg, and they just kind of hand it over. And they come across as the worst stewards of American justice. And in my opinion, anyway. And I base that on a lifetime of watching them and watching them now. We need help in Puerto Rico, they got no water. We need help in Detroit, they got no water. If California had water, it wouldn't still be on fire. So what is your plan here? Just to give stuff to billionaires and expect what? No wreck from the average, honest, working class men and women? No, you're going to get wrecked. But what you're going to do is just say there's, socialists or communists or whatever, and put the cops on them. And I tell my white friends, this has always been the way. You're complaining about behavior that black people have been complaining about forever. And now you're in the same box because in the shrinking system that tells you, like back to our middle class argument, if we had 100 people in America and 1% was rich and then 2 to 20% was well-to-do and then 20% to, let's say, 60% was middle class, and everybody under that was either criminals or trying to get in, right? So you got 40% of people trying to come up, whether they're, trying to get off from the bottom or not. What eventually happens is those numbers become the 1% is now still just 1%, but your well-to-do people are from 2% to like 8% now. They're still, they're still on TV. You still see them rich and balling, but you don't know that their numbers shrink because the money crunch is real, right? So you don't notice it at the Brad Pitt level and the because they may have gone from, wow, I made $130 million last year to 80. Oh, times are tough. But you, the guy who sweeps streets and does what do they call it, the gig economy, babysitting and all that stuff, from that to pensioners trying to work, to put as much as you can in your 401ks, your IRAs to get to the next level. Those people went from, let's say there were 60 of them, now there's like 30 of them. But you're not telling people that the middle class is shrinking. You're just telling people that there's more crime because people are a piece of crap and what's wrong with this. But they're committing crimes because, like I always tell people, you think black people want to commit crime? You lock them out so thoroughly that some people, this is their only avenue, right? Crime is their only avenue. They're not going to starve for you. They're not going to emulate or self-suicide, which is ridiculous. They're not going to suicide themselves for you, so you can carry this narrative of everything in America is fine. Everything in America is not fine. There's less and less progress. The American dream is only for Europeans now. And all these angry, racist white boys, I was talking to a friend of mine, I begin to believe they're not so many angry, racist white boys as just angry white boys, you know. But you can put them in a box of angry racists and use this guy who's an actual racist and tag them all, just like you can go, this guy who couldn't pay his rent, who tried to work, and then tried to stand that crime and gets arrested. You can take that same guy and put all these other hardworking people in the same box as him, even though he shouldn't be in that box, right? So there are real criminals and we grew up with real criminals who did real criminal stuff, and we were just kind of like, what? I mean, it's this idea that what did Malcolm X say? I hate to quote Malcolm X here. He said that this system will have you believe that the bad guy is the good guy and the good guy, I'm paraphrasing, the bad guy is the good guy and the good guy is the bad guy. And this is kind of where we are. You know, I don't see many people on my television set telling me the truth. Daytime television is a joke. Look at Megyn Kelly. You know, people told NBC she was a problem before she got there. And now, you know, they got rid of people who had a following, a good following, and had respect to bring this woman in who was, I want to say unproven, but she was proven, right? She was good at what she did.
No, she was proven on
cable
TV,
right.
But not network TV. Two different mediums.
Do you think,
two different mediums.
That's something. Okay, I never actually thought that there were two different mediums.
Think about it. If you're getting 3 million viewers on cable TV, that's a great number.
Right.
But if you get 3 million
on broadcast, that's
on
ridiculous.
Broadcast, they're looking at you like you're crazy.
Right. Well, right, because one is pay TV and one is free. So why would you get less free viewers than paid viewers? Right. But yeah, right. But here's the thing: they never. This is the problem with race. Well, I'm sliding to race and racism in America. This is the problem. White folk never acknowledge, rarely ever acknowledge when they get it wrong. So NBC, who still has probably the same board of people who fired Cameron Brown for going, you're bringing her here? She's got all this racial baggage, and they fired her for it, right? So now she's proven right. They should at least acknowledge that. They're supposed to be an organization that seeks out the truth, and they don't. Now they're into covering their asses. So what? Excuse my language. So what it appears to me now, all these anonymous people on the NBC Universal board, actually they're owned by Comcast now, right? So the Comcast board up at 30 Rock in this storied place where, you know, they sell it to you as the new Disney, essentially, is problematic because they won't go, well, we got it wrong. What they should have done was probably brought her back and put her in a leadership position because she was right and she was publicly right. But that's not what's going to happen. So they're just going to mulligan.
But you know,
right?
nowadays, you look at our leadership. A leadership won't mention when they're wrong.
Right.
You never mention your fault.
It's an old Machiavellian trick of you're never wrong. You know, you reword or what was one of the tricks? All right, you and I are running right for office. So you let's say are caught on TV hitting a puppy. Now, why did you hit this puppy? You ever had a dog? I've had a dog, right? So sometimes you have to discipline your animal, right? They call them major corrections. I had a dog, my dog Sydney, almost ran into the street when she was like 4 months old. And I grabbed her by the collar. I shook her on the street. You're supposed to lift her up off her hind not her hind legs. Her front legs are off the ground, but her hind legs are. You shake. What are you doing? Right? You get in their face and you yell at them. It's a I'm about to say bonding, but it's one of these moments where you're so shook by, oh my God, I'm never going to do that again with a dog, right? So I'm assuming, never having raised kids, parents have the same thing where their kids shoot into the street and you manage to grab their wrist and bring them back on the sidewalk, and you go, what the hell are you doing? People looking at them and go, oh, they're a bad parent. What is the alternative? Not doing that and have your kid run into the street again, or not having caught him and having your kid be hit by a car? All these things, right? So just because you see me doing this to a dog does not mean I'm abusing dogs or, so it's this type of kind of atmosphere where people will look at something and put their own conclusions on it, whereas the truth of the thing is usually wholly different. So, again, I'm losing my track of where I was going with that.
No. Hey, I just want to jump in here and mention it's Late Night Parents, ways to follow the show, latenightparents.com. Big shout out to KACR 96.1 FM in Alameda, California. Alameda Community Radio. Big shout out to you guys.
Alameda, nice.
And also WRWK 93.9 FM, Midlothian, Virginia. The Work 93.9.
Hey.
More love from the
yeah.
Hey, I just want to double back for a second. Just say this to you. Here's my beef with the whole Amazon deal. And I'm strictly talking about New York because I'm not affected by Crystal City, soon to be renamed National Landing. I'm not affected by that. I'm affected.
They're going to rename it?
They're going to rename a city.
See, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. So before we need all this money and this tax.
We're taking it over.
And while we're here, why don't you name it this street after my dear departed mom or my dead dog or my other? Why you know what I mean? Why you renaming?
They're taking the city over. So
it's always before we come here, we want to make sure that the city will crawl for us, and the city goes, oh, we'll crawl.
Of course. So
and there you are.
Here's my beef. My beef solely with Long Island City is the fact that, okay, so you're taking these tax subsidies. Yes, you're taking them. You don't need to take them. You look at the same time right now, Google is bringing in 20,000 jobs to New York because I don't know if you guys noticed. New York is like, the East Coast version of Silicon Valley. Everyone that's out west, it has to be out east. So here's my beef. My beef is solely to the fact that I think of, and I'm just going to throw out,
And what you, by the way, just a side note, what you said about they have like Silicon Valley in New York goes back to what I was saying about like the city of note. So people in Brazil, people in China, all the way across the country, even though their markets open late, they always keep an eye on what happens in New York. You know what I mean? And New York so much doesn't have to keep an eye on what happens in London stock market unless it's a giant calamity. But as everyday business goes, if you're a money guy, you're keeping an eye on what goes on in like New York because it's where everything goes through now. And 100 years ago it was in England. That's that. Anyway, but go ahead.
So they're bringing 25,000 jobs. 25,000 jobs. Okay, that's the HQ2. They're splitting up 25 and 25, and then they're going to have an operational center in Nashville, Tennessee. Wow. Now, you look at the community. You say 25,000 jobs. And you look at the community. The big beef from, someone who's in the People's Corner, new Congresswoman-elect, is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She's like, how many jobs is that going to mean for the community? Because if you look in the community, I mean, are they going to be skilled enough for the good-paying jobs? Because if that's the case, then it's going to require that you have a master's degree. You're going to need to know coding. You're going to need to understand AI. You're going to work for Alexa. You got to think about it. These skills, and I hate to say this, and I'm probably going to get bashed for it, but these skills aren't taught in the projects. And I don't know if they're going to be putting together programs so that they can take people from the community, train them up, because then they won't even be working in supply chain. They'll be working in the shipping for the packaging, maybe the drivers. So of those 25,000 jobs, a lot of them are high-end paying jobs. But the lower-end jobs, I guess, are going to be for the community, because when it comes down to it, it's apples and oranges. You're not just going to say, hey, you live in a community, I'm going to give you a $200,000 gig. It just doesn't work that way. I just don't see many high-paying jobs. I mean, I'm sorry, but Raheem from 12th Street doesn't have a chance to get an Alexa-related job. I mean, he could surely buy an Alexa from the walk-up center, but
gonna get is a ton of people that, like I said, look, remember, there's a ton of pictures of like these giant either call centers that I'm thinking of, or these giant floors where people are sitting up there watching packages whiz by and putting them on trucks that you always see in the Amazon footage.
Right.
Those are the jobs that they're gonna give you. All the other jobs where you see also pictures of Amazon people on Segway scooters, and you like lunches are free. That whole tier of jobs are not for you. So all those people will be bussed in and brought in from wherever they bring them in from, and you will get to, mop the floors and wash the cars and deliver the packages. I don't see how this is progress. I mean, I think it's progress for Amazon, but it looks to me like more of the same. But I can't begrudge a guy with a job. So
no, I'm not. I mean, and we're not in some ivory tower, but I'm just saying.
Exactly.
I'm guessing we have, Billy De Blasio and Amazon Cohen Cuomo to thank for this. I'm just, not that I'm against this. We've seen gentrification, but this is going to be a new type of gentrification.
Yeah, on such a ridiculous scale. And they're going to come with an army of PR people telling you it's not what you think it is. And that's also something you have to look out for.
So it becomes we're bringing 25,000 jobs. No, you're going to be bringing in 20,000 additional people on that 7 train.
Yeah.
And the 7 train is kind of crappy. I don't know when the last time you've ridden that train. I rode it once from work to City Field for a game.
I think I went to the stadium, and that was the last time. I just kind of like, oh.
But I'm just saying, I mean, I don't mean to throw salt in the game or anything else like that. I just think
I don't think it's throwing salt just because you see things that people either want to ignore or they haven't thought about. You bring all these people in. The first thing that's going to happen is the rents are going to go through the roof. It's people who are not native to that city, and you're going to bring in racial issues as well. Not everybody you bring into the city is going to be good people. Smug, arrogant nonsense. For the amount of people who come to New York, Long Island City, or Virginia, Northern Virginia, and go, wow, this move was just, it'll be a lot of, I didn't want to move, and there's going to be all this weird energy that you're introducing into a place. It's like marriages, right? Just because you like this one person doesn't mean you like their cousin or their uncle or their mom,
right.
And you have to make do. But when you're not part of that family, and you're like, and that family moves into where you are, and not you as someone who's not part of their system has to make do with them, and they generally don't want to make do with you. As my, I'm about to say my history, but as my my memory tells me, I mean, I've just seen this before, you know. So yeah, you show up in town with your PR people, and your PR people put the happiest spin on this stuff, as you know. You smile publicly, but you're intolerant of different people and change, no matter what your bylaws say. And when someone does something, you have this pat answer for it because, you know, you have a PR firm, but you're not really dealing with the people of the community or the group. And that's what I think is going to happen, which is inevitable. Whatever incident you get into is all just going to be PR statements, and the people who should stand up and go, hey, this is my company, and won't be anywhere near it. They'll be on private G4s, you know, calling up the senator they have in their pocket to tell them to handle something. And that senator will be, oh, yes, sir, yes, boss. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you down here as a working guy on the 7 train or on the LIE to into the city will just get worked over for it. I mean, the amount of people that are going to be on that train going to and from work when Amazon opens up in Long Island City is going to be a joke. And not to include, if you think about crime and criminality, now I know where all the people who have stuff are. Now you make this place a target for, like, shady people. So now that they're a target because they make $200,000 a year and have all this nice stuff in this incredibly poor place, now you have to have more cops to protect those people, which changes the tenor of the place and how cops treat poor people. So I see nothing but a drama and PR people telling you why there is no drama. And when it gets really, really bad, they'll just tell you to do what they'll be doing what Malcolm X said, that hating the people who you shouldn't hate and loving the bad guy. So, man.
Hey, we got to wrap this up. We got to wrap this up. It was a great discussion.
Thanks for having me.
My good buddy, Shawn Armour, it can be reached on Twitter at true_armor. The Armor Intergalactic podcast is available. When do you make the pod available? Bi-weekly? I mean,
I've been sick for the last month, but we're going to try and get back at this in a hard rush before Thanksgiving, which is Thursday.
Definitely,
because I haven't done it for a while but yeah, and after that, yeah, we're just gonna straight run at it. But thanks for the medical tip.
Oh yeah,
to help me out incredibly. And I love being on your podcast. I love your listeners all over the world.
Yeah, man. Like I said, listen, we're gonna try and do another pod pre-Thanksgiving.
That'd be great.
I'm gonna hit you up.
Happy Thanksgiving if we don't.
All right. Happy Thanksgiving, brother. Love you.
Love you, man. Peace.